Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Thursday, February 12th, 2026. And I have to say, looking at the state of the league right now, we are limping. I mean, literally limping into the All-Star break.
It feels like we're broadcasting from a triage unit this morning. It really does.
It's unbelievable. You open up the injury report, and it just reads like a list of all OBA nominees. You've got Luka dealing with a hamstring. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the guy who's probably leading the MVP race for most people. He's out with an abdominal strain.
Which is a tricky one.
A very tricky one. Steph Curry is sidelined with a knee issue. It just feels like a war of attrition out there right now.
And yet, even with all that, with all the medical tape and the ice packs and these, out indefinitely tags, the product on the floor last night was, well, it was absolutely electric. We saw systems getting stress tested in real time.
That is the perfect way to put it. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We have a massive stack of box scores, tactical breakdowns, insider reports from ESPN and The Athletic. And our mission is to cut through all that noise.
Yeah.
We need to figure out who is actually for real in this completely chaotic landscape. And, well, who is just holding on for dear life?
Because when the stars sit, that's when the truth comes out, right? You see which teams have a real culture, a real system, and which teams are just, a collection of talent that needs its best guy to win.
Exactly. And last night, two Western Conference teams made a massive statement in that regard.
Such statements.
So here's the roadmap for this deep dive. In segment one, we're going deep, and I mean really deep into last night's action. We're going to break down the San Antonio Spurs extending their win streak to 6 games against the Warriors. And the Oklahoma City Thunder absolutely dismantling the Suns without SGA.
Yeah, that one was something else.
Then in segment two, we have to talk about the hammer dropping in Detroit. The NBA handed out some heavy suspensions following that Pistons-Hornets ball.
Very heavy.
We need to analyze if that bad boys narrative is unfairly targeting Isaiah Stewart, or if the league is, frankly, right to be terrified of him.
That's a great question.
Plus, are we taking Luka for granted?
Oh, we are. We absolutely are.
We'll get into that. And we'll wrap up in segment 3 with a look ahead to tonight's slate, specifically the Lakers hosting the Mavericks. There are some wild rumors swirling about ownership stakes and player options that we need to get into.
But a little bit of off-court drama. I love it.
But let's start with the basketball.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack San Antonio versus Golden State. Final score. Spurs 126, Warriors 113.
This is such a fascinating game because on paper, the casual fan looks at it and says, well, Steph didn't play, Porzingis didn't play. This is a throwaway game.
Right. Schedule loss for the Warriors. Move on.
Exactly. But if you actually watch the tape, this was a statement win for San Antonio, a real one. They're now 38-16.
And that's the second best record in the West.
Yeah.
It's not a fluke.
No, it is not. And they've won 6 straight. But I want to push back on that injured Warriors narrative for just a second.
Okay.
Yes, of course, Golden State was shorthanded. You take Steph Curry off any team, and it's a different world. But what we saw from San Antonio wasn't just them beating a bad team. It was how they beat them.
The composure.
The composure. You have a Spurs team that's been, rebuilding for a few years, and now they're finally clicking into this juggernaut mode, and it all starts with the two-headed monster of Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox.
Let's talk about Fox first, because when I was looking at the game flow data, it really seemed like he set the tone right from the jump. He finished with 27 points, 8 assists, but that box score doesn't really tell the story of his impact in that first quarter.
He was the engine, the entire engine. He had 12 points in the first quarter alone. And here's the tactical wrinkle that I found so interesting. The Warriors, knowing they didn't have Steph's offensive gravity, they tried to muck it up on defense.
Sure, get physical, slow it down.
Right. They were hedging hard on every single screen, trying to force the ball out of Fox's hands, make someone else beat them. But Fox, he just didn't settle. He refused to bail them out by taking long jumpers early in the shot clock.
He was just living in the paint.
He was living there. He was getting downhill so aggressively that he turned Draymond Green, who is, let's be honest, one of the smartest defenders in the history of the sport.
Absolutely.
He turned him into a hesitant helper. Draymond was constantly caught in this no man's land, having to choose between stopping the ball or tagging Wembanyama on the roll. And when you make Draymond Green think too much, you've already won the possession.
That's such a great point. You're taking his instinct out of the equation.
You're paralyzing him. And that pressure, that constant downhill attack, it just opened everything up for them.
And that leads to the turning point. Because Despite Fox's incredible start, the Warriors actually fought back. They didn't just roll over.
No, they didn't. They're still the Warriors. They have that championship DNA. And this is where it gets really interesting tactically. The Warriors came out of halftime and they just blitzed them. They hit 3 straight three-pointers. DeAnthony Melton hit 2. Moses Moody hit 1. And suddenly, Golden State has all the momentum. They actually built up a lead.
I saw they led by as many as 13 at one point in that third quarter. And usually, a young team, even really talented one like the Spurs, that's where they might fold. You're on the road, the crowd's getting into it, the veteran team is making their big run.
That's the old Spurs, maybe last year's Spurs. This version, completely different story. They closed that third quarter on a 24-8 run. A 24-8 run to end the quarter. And the capstone of that whole thing was De'Aaron Fox, cool as you like, hitting a jumper right at the buzzer to tie the game at 94. That is the kind of stabilizing presence you need from your star point guard. He didn't panic. He just got to his spot, rose up, and completely reset the game.
So you enter the fourth quarter. It's a brand new ball game tied at 94. And this is where I want to slow down and really visualize what happened, because all the sources I read described it as basically a 1-minute highlight reel that just ended the game. It was the Victor Wembanyama show.
It was devastating. I mean, we talk about gravity with Steph Curry, right? How he pulls defenders towards him 30 feet from the basket.
Sure.
Wembanyama has vertical gravity. It's just as powerful. In less than 60 seconds, you get the sequence. First, he catches an alley-oop dunk, so you see the vertical threat. It forces the entire defense to collapse into the paint.
Right.
Then on the other end, he blocks a shot at the rim, just erases 2 points. And then, the dagger. He comes down in transition, trails the play, and just casually hits a three-pointer from the top of the key.
Boom, boom, boom. Game over.
In 60 seconds, a tie game becomes a huge momentum swing. It just completely demoralized Golden State. What can you do? When you have a 7-foot-plus guy who can do all 3 of those things, catch a lob, block a shot, and hit a trailing 3 in consecutive possessions, there is no tactical adjustment you can make.
You can't
scheme for an alien.
And looking at the stats, that physical dominance showed up on the glass too. The Spurs won the rebounding battle 55-51.
Which is huge. That's a huge number. Size matters, you know.
Yeah.
The Warriors are waiting on Kristaps Porzingis to come back from that Achilles issue. And without him and without Curry, they just look small.
They did.
Draymond battled his heart out. He had 12 boards. He did everything he could. But over 48 minutes, Wembanyama and the Spurs' length just wore them down. It's like a constant wave of size they just couldn't handle.
It's interesting you mentioned the Warriors struggle. Moses Moody had 17, Draymond had 17, Melton had 17. It was, very balanced scoring.
But balance doesn't win tight games in the fourth quarter. Stars do. And that's the difference, right? The Spurs have 2 closers now in Fox and Wemby. The Warriors, without Steph, are a team of very, very good role players who are trying to punch above their weight.
A great way to put it.
They fought hard. They cut it to 4 at halftime. But the talent gap without Curry is just too wide to sustain for a full game against a team this good.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, because I know there are listeners screaming at their speakers right now saying, it's the Warriors B team, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Are the Spurs a legitimate threat for the #1 seed? Or are they just beating up on injured teams? They beat the Lakers without Luka, now the Warriors without Steph. Is this fool's gold?
That is the cynical view, and it's a fair question to ask, but here's my answer. You play who's in front of you, and 38-16 is not a fluke. You don't just accidentally win 38 games in the Western Conference.
No, you don't.
They're 3.5 games back of OKC. Do I think they'll catch the Thunder? Probably not, just given how well OKC is playing. But the Spurs are proving they can win in different ways. They can win a shootout with Fox. They can grind it out defensively with Wemby's blocks and rim protection.
Right.
They are absolutely a threat to come out of the West, regardless of who they played last night. This team is for real.
Well, speaking of the team they're chasing, let's pivot to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
The machine. Just an absolute machine.
They went into Phoenix last night, and, demolished doesn't even feel like a strong enough word.
Yeah.
136-109. And remember, this is the headline. No Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
No SGA. No Ajay Mitchell. And it did not matter one single bit. This result, to me, was significantly more impressive than the Spurs win.
Really? Why?
Because the Suns, yes, they were missing guys too. Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen were all out. But the way OKC played was terrifying. It was a clinic in system basketball. It was a testament to culture and coaching.
And a testament to Jalen Williams. J-Dub. We have to talk about this stat line because it barely looks real. Right. 28 points, 11 of 12 shooting.
It's absurd efficiency. It's video game stuff. You're talking about a guy who is functionally playing point guard, running the entire offense, taking jump shots, driving to the rim, and he missed one shot all night.
And the context here is so important too, right? Because he just came back from an ankle injury.
Yeah.
This wasn't him in mid-season form.
Exactly. He sat out 10 games with that hamstring and ankle issue. He looked a little tentative in his first game back, maybe a step slow, which is totally normal. But last night, he was in complete and total control. And this is why OKC is so dangerous. This is why they're the #1 seed.
Yep.
If your MVP candidate point guard goes down, Jalen Williams just steps right in and gives you 28 points on 92% shooting. Who else in the league has a #2 option like that?
Nobody.
Yeah.
I want to dig into how he got those looks, though, because you mentioned system basketball. What were the Thunder doing differently that allowed a guy to shoot 92% from the floor?
It's the 0.5-second rule on steroids. It's what Coach Mark Daigneault has built. He has created this culture where the ball moves regardless of who is on the floor. It never, ever sticks. In Daigneault's system, if you touch the basketball, you have half a second to make a decision, shoot, drive, or pass. There's no holding, there's no serving the defense, there's no dribbling the air out of the ball for 15 seconds.
So no pounding the rock like we see with Luka or Harden sometimes.
Zero. Absolutely zero. And that just destroys a defense like Phoenix's, especially a depleted Phoenix defense. They're trying to rotate, they're trying to help, trying to communicate switches, but by the time they do, the ball is already gone.
It's one step ahead.
Always. That's how you get Jalen Williams shooting 11 of 12. He isn't forcing tough shots against a set defense. He's attacking a defense that is already scrambling to catch up to the pass. He's attacking closeouts. He's making backdoor cuts. It's beautiful basketball.
And it wasn't just him. I mean, the bench production was just staggering. 74 bench points.
74. That is a full game's worth of scoring for some teams back in the 90s. It's unbelievable.
Isaiah Joe had 21 points off the bench, 6 of 8 from deep.
And that's the killer. That's what makes them so demoralizing to play against. You cannot relax for a single second. You sub out your starters, you're hoping for a little breather, and in comes Isaiah Joe sprinting around screens, launching threes from 30 feet. They started the game 11 of 18 from three-point range in the first half. That's 61%. You cannot beat a team shooting like that. It's impossible.
The Suns certainly couldn't. They were led by Dillon Brooks with 23 points, but they were down by at least 20 for the entire second half.
Yeah, the game was over at halftime. I think OKC led 75-52 at the break. It was a wrap.
I want to ask about the Suns' decision-making here. They dropped to 32-23. Coach Jordan Ott decided to rest Booker and Jalen Green because it was a back-to-back. Is that soft? Or is that smart? I mean, you're playing the best team in the West. Why just punt the game?
It's smart. It's 100% smart, honestly.
You think so?
Yeah. You're limping into the break. You have multiple guys with nagging injuries. Don't risk a long-term injury, especially with ankles and hamstrings, for one regular season game against the best team in the league that you were probably going to lose anyway.
I guess that's fair.
But it does highlight the gap between the franchises, right? The Suns absolutely need their stars to compete. The Thunder, they look like they could win 50 games with their B team.
That's the scary part. OKC is 42-13. They are, without a doubt, the deepest team in the league.
Without question. And when you look at the standings, that 3.5 game cushion they have over San Antonio feels pretty darn secure if they can just plug and play guys like this and not miss a beat.
It's incredible. So to wrap up this segment, we have the Spurs surging with a healthy Wemby and Fox, looking like a real contender, and the Thunder just rolling with this incredible depth, even without their MVP. The West is top-heavy, but man, those top two teams are frightening.
They are the class of the conference right now, no doubt about it. And frankly, everyone else is just trying to avoid the play-in so they don't have to face one of them in the first round.
Okay, let's take a quick breath because things are about to get a little more heated. We need to talk about what happened off the court, or I guess on the court, but involving fists instead of basketballs.
The fallout from Charlotte.
Yes. The NBA handed down suspensions yesterday for that Pistons-Hornets brawl that happened back on February 9th. And the hammer dropped hard on Detroit.
It was heavy. Very heavy.
Let's run through the numbers just so everyone is on the same page. Isaiah Stewart, 7 games.
Wow.
Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate, 4 games each. And Jalen Duren, 2 games. That is a combined 17 games of suspension for one incident. That's a lot. It is significant. And the biggest number, obviously, belongs to Isaiah Stewart. 7 games. And this is where the debate is really raging online and, on sports radio everywhere.
Right. Because if you just look at the incident itself, and I've watched the replay about 50 times now, Diabate fouls Duren hard. Duren shoves him. Diabate throws a punch. Then chaos ensues. And Stewart comes off the bench.
And that's the key, right? Leaving the bench. That's the automatic no-no.
That is the cardinal sin in the NBA rulebook. If you leave the bench, it's automatic. But 7 games, that feels personal. It feels like it's about more than just this one incident.
Well, the league explicitly cited his history. The press release said, and I'm quoting here, based in part on his repeated history of unsportsmanlike acts.
Right.
They brought up the altercation with LeBron James back in 2021.
Uh-huh.
They brought up the incident with the Timberwolves last April where he went into the stands area. They're making a pattern out of it.
And that's where I think this take debate gets really interesting, because on one hand, you have this bad boys narrative that follows the Pistons everywhere. Coach J.B. Bickerstaff was furious about this. He said, the narrative that's out there that we react to everything is a disappointing one. It's completely inaccurate.
He feels like they're being profiled.
Exactly. He feels that because they're the Detroit Pistons, and because they play a physical brand of basketball, and because, let's not overlook this, they are currently the #1 seed in the East with a 40-13 record.
A very important piece of context.
That the league is making an example of them. They're trying to send a message to the top dog in the East.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. I get the frustration from Detroit. I really do. But you watch the tape. Stewart didn't just leave the bench to play peacemaker.
No, he didn't.
He aggressively went after Miles Bridges. The report says he appeared to get Bridges in a headlock and threw multiple left-handed blows.
That is true. It got ugly.
I mean, you can't do that. You just can't. If you leave the bench and start throwing punches, particularly when you have a rap sheet like Stewart does, the league has to come down hard. If they gave him 3 games, what message does that send to the rest of the league?
I get it. I do.
Hey, you can put an opponent in a headlock and you'll be back next week.
No, I agree. The action warrants a significant suspension. But 7 feels like a lifetime achievement award for bad behavior. It feels like the league is saying, we are tired of dealing with you, Isaiah. And my concern is, does this put a target on his back for the playoffs?
Oh, absolutely.
If you're an opposing team, do you try to bait him now? Because you know the league has a magnifying glass on him at all times.
Oh, 100%. If I'm the Celtics or the Knicks in a 7-game series, I am absolutely telling my agitators, my guys like, well, ironically, a Draymond Green type, to get under Stewart's skin. Say whatever you need to say. Give him a little shove. Because we know the fuse is short, and we know the penalties are going to be high.
And that's the danger for Detroit. They're having this magical season, 40-13. Cade Cunningham is playing great. They just beat the Raptors last night without these guys, which was impressive. But if your toughness, which is your identity, becomes a liability, that can sink a playoff run.
It's such a fine line, isn't it? It's the line between bad boys, toughness, and suspended foolishness.
Precisely. And losing Stewart for 7 games and Duren for 2, that hurts their front court depth immediately. They have to play the Raptors again. They have some tough games coming up. They have to weather this storm without their muscle.
Speaking of weathering storms without their stars, let's pivot to the other big controversy that's been brewing. And this one involves the MVP race.
The Kobe-ing of Luka Doncic.
I love that phrase. It comes from Candace Parker. She went on a podcast with Vince Carter and T-Mac, and she basically said the voters are bored. She said, quote, don't Kobe Luka. Don't get bored with greatness.
She is absolutely 100% spot on.
Do you think so?
1,000%. Look at the numbers. Just look at them. Luka is averaging a league-leading 32.8 points, 7.8 rebounds, 8.6 assists. He is doing everything for that Lakers team. But because he does it every single night, year after year, we've just become desensitized to it.
It's routine.
It's routine. It's the same thing that happened to Jordan, the same thing that happened to LeBron, and it certainly happened to Kobe. We start looking for the new story like SGA leading OKC to the 1 seed instead of just rewarding the best player.
But availability is the best ability,
Yeah.
right? And here's the news that complicates that argument. Luka is out again. He missed his 3rd straight game last night with his hamstring strain.
And that is the counter-argument. That's the one thing that could actually derail his case.
Dave McMenamin from ESPN reported that this is actually Luka's first hamstring issue in his entire 8-year career. He said, and I found this concerning, the rehab is new to him. That worries me.
It should. It should worry every Lakers fan. Hamstrings are so tricky. You can feel totally fine. You go to explode off the dribble and pop, there it goes again.
Right.
And for a guy like Luka who relies so much on deceleration, on stopping on a dime to create space for his step back, that hamstring is under immense tension. He isn't a vertical athlete who jumps over people. He's a stop-and-start athlete. That puts so much torque on those muscles.
And the Lakers are feeling it. They are 5-5 in games without him this season. They're sliding in the standings. They're currently 6th in the West, which is, flirting with that play-in range.
And that connects right back to the MVP argument, doesn't it? If the Lakers are barely a .500 team without him and a top-tier championship contender with him, isn't that the literal definition of most valuable player?
That's a great point. You take them off the floor, they're mediocre. You put them on the floor, they're contenders.
But the narrative is shifting. People are looking at the Lakers sliding and saying, see, they aren't dominant enough to have the MVP. But the reason they aren't dominant right now is because the MVP is sitting in street clothes. It's a complete catch-22.
It really is. And honestly, with the All-Star game coming up in L.A. and Luka being the top vote getter, I think it was 3.4 million votes, first time he's led the league, it's just a huge bummer if he can't play in his home city.
McMenamin said playing Thursday against Dallas is not out of the question, but it just feels so risky. Why would you push it right before the break?
Exactly. If I'm the Lakers training staff, I am hiding his sneakers. I'm locking the gym. You have a week off coming up? Let him rest. Don't risk a tear for a regular season game in February, even if it is against his old team.
And that brings us perfectly to our final segment, because whether he plays tonight or not, that game is going to be absolutely fascinating.
Let's look at what's next. Tonight, Thursday, February 12th, the Dallas Mavericks are in Los Angeles to face the Lakers.
The narrative machine is working overtime on this one. It's buzzing.
Even if Luka doesn't play, the storylines are just so thick. You have Luka versus his former team. But there's this new report that I found absolutely fascinating.
The Donnie Nelson rumor?
Yes. Reports are starting to surface that a group led by Donnie Nelson, the former Mavs GM, wants to buy a stake in the Mavericks, specifically to repair their relationship with Luka.
This is 4D chess. This is some next-level stuff.
It really is. Let's unpack this for the listeners who might not remember. Why does Donnie Nelson matter here in the Luka saga?
Donnie Nelson was the guy who drafted Luka. They had a real bond. He was the one who believed in him, who saw the vision when other GMs were skeptical about a EuroLeague player. When Nelson was fired, that was the first domino that really unsettled Luka in Dallas.
And Luka has a player option in his contract for 2028.
Which sounds far away, but it's really not. That is right around the corner in NBA years.
So the theory is, if the Lakers don't win a title in the next couple of years, and if the Mavs can bring back the front office guys that Luka liked and trusted, like Donnie Nelson, maybe, just maybe, they can lure him back home. It's a long-term leverage play.
It's the classic homecoming leverage play. And frankly, if you look at the Mavericks right now, they need a savior. They are 1934. They are 12th in the West. They are completely irrelevant on the basketball court.
They're bad.
They are very bad. So this ownership rumor is the only thing keeping them in the news cycle. It's a signal flare to Luka and his agent saying, hey, we're trying to fix the culture you left.
But let me push back on that for a second. Does a minority owner really change a player's mind? If the roster is trash, and let's be honest, 1934 speaks for itself, does seeing Donnie Nelson in the owner's box a few times a year make Luka want to leave a situation with Anthony Davis?
Maybe not on its own. But emotions play a huge role in free agency. We see it all the time. If Luka feels at home with Nelson back in the fold, it gives Dallas a fighting chance. Right now, they have 0 chance. This takes them from 0 to maybe 1%.
Okay, fair enough. But for tonight's game, the actual game, if Luka sits, the tactical reality is pretty bleak for Dallas.
The Lakers need this win badly. They just lost to OKC and the Spurs. They cannot afford to drop a game to a 19-win team right before the break. That would be a disaster for morale.
No. And this is where Anthony Davis has to absolutely feast. We didn't see him on the injury report, so we're assuming he's active. The Mavs' interior defense is generous, to put it politely.
Generous.
Marvin Bagley had 4 blocks in his debut for them, which is nice, but AD should eat him alive in the post.
He has to. If AD doesn't have 30 and 15 tonight, something went wrong. And watch out for the new guy on the Lakers, Luke Kennard.
Yes, the trade acquisition. A pure shooter.
He hit a 3 in his first 2 minutes as a Laker. If the Mavs collapse on AD in the paint, which they will have to do, Kennard is going to be standing wide open in the corner all night long.
And that's exactly what the Lakers have been missing for years. Spacing.
Yeah.
Pure, reliable spacing. If Kennard can come in and knock down 3 or 4 threes tonight, the Lakers should win this comfortably, Luka or no Luka.
Agreed. It shouldn't be close if they play their game.
Okay, looking elsewhere on the slate tonight, we have The Milwaukee Bucks visiting the Oklahoma City Thunder.
A classic schedule loss setup for OKC. This is a big test for them.
Explain that concept for the listeners who might not be familiar with the term.
So OKC played last night in Phoenix. They expended energy, even if it was a blowout. They then had to fly home to Oklahoma City, probably arriving at, 2 or 3 in the morning? Now they have to turn around and face a rested Milwaukee team tonight. Usually that's where you see tired legs. Jump shots start falling short. Defensive rotations are a step slow. It's not about talent, it's about pure physiology.
But the Bucks aren't exactly setting the world on fire either. They're 22-30, 12th in the East. They've been a disappointment.
They've been a huge struggle. But Doc Rivers says Giannis is playing. He is not being shut down for the break. And when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo coming downhill at a tired defense, that is a problem. He puts so much pressure on your physical conditioning.
Can Jalen Williams do it again? Can he drop 28 on tired legs while also having to deal with Giannis on the other end?
That's the matchup to watch. But again, this is where OKC's depth is their superpower. If J-Dub is tired, they bring in Cason Wallace. They bring in Chet Holmgren, who only played 20-something minutes last night because of the blowout, so he should be fresh.
Good point.
They have waves of fresh bodies. The Bucks, by comparison, look old and slow.
So you're picking the Thunder even on the back-to-back against Giannis.
I am. I think I am. They are just playing at a different speed and with a different energy than Milwaukee right now. Unless Giannis goes for 50 points and 20 rebounds, I think OKC's depth just overwhelms them in the end. They have too many attackers.
It really is amazing to think about where these two franchises are. OKC is the model of the future, built through the draft, and Milwaukee feels like they're desperately clinging to the past.
It really is a changing of the guard season in the NBA. You can feel it.
Before we let you go, any final thoughts as we head into this much-needed All-Star break?
We talked a lot about the West today, but I want to leave you with a quick thought about the East. The Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Cavs. Okay, I'm listening.
Watch out for Cleveland. Seriously, they've won 5 straight. They traded for James Harden, and everyone, myself included, rolled their eyes. Oh, Harden in Cleveland, how is that possibly going to work?
Right.
Well, in his first 2 games with them, he's averaging 22.5 points and 7.5 assists.
That is better than expected, a lot better.
He's orchestrating, he's not forcing it. He's making life so much easier for Donovan Mitchell. And with the Knicks and Celtics battling injuries, and now the Pistons losing Stewart to suspension, the Cavs might be the team that sneaks up, grabs that 2 or 3 seed, and makes a real run.
That is a spicy take to end on. James Harden, the savior of Cleveland.
Stranger things have happened in this league.
That is very true. Well, that does it for this deep dive. A reminder to everyone, All-Star Weekend is coming up in Los Angeles. We will be watching closely to see if Luka or SGA make any appearances or if the young guns take over the showcase.
It's going to be a fun weekend. Nice little break.
Enjoy the games tonight, everyone. Watch that Lakers-Mavs game. Keep an eye on the ticker for those injury updates. We will be back tomorrow to wrap up the entire first half of the season. Until then, keep watching the Orange Ball.
See you next time.